of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is public comment time. Is there anybody from the township just has a general comment? And when we get to the agenda items, you'll have an opportunity to speak. Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the planning commission regular meeting minutes from August 1st, 2024. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yep. I was not at that meeting.
Anybody have any revisions or corrections? Second by Paul. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next item is consideration of application for preliminary land development from Panda Restaurant Group to construct a restaurant on the property located along Old Mill Boulevard, more specifically known as, and there's the parcel number there, I'm not going to read that, in the C2 zoning district. Anybody here from the applicant?
I put updated sets right in front of you guys. I have an updated layout too, just with some more information. On the plan. I'm going to give like an overview of the project.
Sure.
Well.
Yeah.
Okay, so, as you know, it's in the existing development of Old Mill. So it's currently an infill lot there. It's a 2,700 square foot Panda Express. We meet the standards for parking, landscaping. It'll have 2 drive-through lanes coming out right there. There was a lot split done on it, so I think that is reflected in these drawings. I believe you guys may have known about that from previously, and it wasn't reflected in the first set, but that has been completed, and we're working with the property owner and that neighboring property for coordinating that development. But we did come in last month, I believe it was, for a sign variance that was approved just for an extra frontage sign up on the building for the lockout. But other than that, we're meeting all of the township standards. As I said, it's part of that infill lot, so utilities have all been subbed to it. The development has been thought of for the drainage capacities with the detention ponds that are already in place. And then we will have some pre-treatment in there as well, just for any runoff that we have from our lot.
Sounds good. Scott, I know you had a chance to review and have a letter. Do you have any comments?
No, I had a number of comments for the first go-around at the end of last week, but we turned everything around and provided everything there.
And it background late last night, so sorry if you guys did not get those, but you did a good job of checking out.
So Scott, I'm looking at your October 3rd letter, right?
Correct.
Okay. What's your schedule looking like?
For construction?
Sure.
We're hoping to start construction at the beginning of the year, weather permitting. So, yeah. So after this gets approved and then it goes to the township board, we'll be going into the building permitting. Hopefully early next year.
What's the completion of the project once it started?
It's typically around 6 to 9 months.
Joe, you got any questions?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good.
So what's kind of nice about these kind of projects.
Yeah.
Come in pretty clean.
Yeah.
Drive-throughs look okay to you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
This is for preliminary approval.
We're only preliminary at this point. So from what you've seen, Scott, there's nothing on here that
It's not
you're
just
gonna see an
clean up-
issue.
Just clean up the survey. Get them straightened out.
That doesn't mean you have to sign. We're fine. Because once, the way it is, Russell, we can't modify it at this point on the agenda, but if it, when, we could do preliminary and final if it was on the agenda that way. But it's on the
Okay.
agenda just for preliminary, so we can grant preliminary, but then you have to come back for final.
Okay.
Right?
We're doing the final.
Well, we can't, because it wasn't on the agenda that way. I think it applies.
Okay. As what information would be missing for the final?
Really nothing. It's just when the
Okay.
ordinance is written, it has to be approved, or it has to be recommended by the planning commission, be approved by.
Is the final the township board, or it comes back
It
here
comes
again
back here,
for
yeah,
final?
Back here, back
And
to
then
the-
it comes to the board,
Yeah, it's a procedural.
and that's not something where we can request an amendment to the agenda to have it be for final or not, because
If
you
you
were
were- if you
able
were
to.
If you were to put it in writing,
You need to put it up 24 hours ahead of time, right?
We have Act 65 in 2021 that says it has to be 24 hours.
24 hours
Okay.
prior
Because
to the meeting.
It's a new law they passed, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago?
Ah, okay.
That's the problem, yeah.
Okay,
Otherwise, we could do it.
okay,
So it's, from what Scott said in this review, it's really a formality for you, but
okay,
to come in, but it will have to go back on agenda and it's gonna.
Provided if you don't make any changes.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, okay. Okay, so we'll go to the, I'm sorry, I'm asking a question for you.
That's all right.
Well, one thing I wanted to think, if you do make changes, you can, at that point, ask for preliminary and
And final at the
final.
same time.
So if you find it necessary between now and the next meeting to do that, to make a change if something comes up, that you have to do that, and you do make changes, when you submit submit it for approval, you'll have to reapply for preliminary and final. If we do make changes, so that I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there would have to be a new application if they do make changes. Or will they just amend their current application?
We got a request from her in writing, right, Dennis, we've been.
Yes,
off the same application.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right.
The only thing we'll probably be in contact about, is a trip down for the traffic impact fee. So our traffic impact engineer will probably assess, a number of trips to the site. And then we have the ability to essentially agree with that. If they were to not agree with the trips that they assess, then it would be on you to perform your own traffic study. But that fee is not assessed until the time that we issue the building permit.
Okay,
All right, any more questions? The chair entertain a motion from the so inclined.
I'll make a motion.
All right, we're making a motion to grant preliminary.
Yes.
Okay. So second, all right. So we have a motion to grant preliminary approval for land development for Panda Restaurant, according to item number 4. Subject to engineer's comments, which apparently are all pretty good, so. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next item, we have consideration preliminary and final minor subdivision application approval for Americo Real Estate. Anybody here from the applicant? I assume it's you, gentlemen.
Owner's representative for American Real Estate, and we have Melissa Phillips on the phone. She's with Valley Land Services, our engineer.
And have you had a chance to review the letter from the engineer?
Yes.
What are you guys doing?
We are combining 3 parcels of property. We have a text amendment we received from the Board of Supervisors back in June of 2022.
I believe I remember.
Our plan is to construct 2 additional buildings on the combined parcel. We got the text approval, but there were some conditions, one of which is we had to combine the parcels to make the amount of property available large enough to accommodate.
Right.
So we are finally to the point where we are ready to do that, and that's what we're here seeking today.
Scott, do you have some comments?
We still need, Washington County Planning Commission review. This was an older plan, it was drawn in 2021, it still has, the old owner, former owner still referenced, the instrument numbers for the deeds, need to be updated. Seal from the private road. It says private road or private right of way, but if these are all gonna be, these lot lines are gonna be extinguished, I would think that private road also needs to be extinguished. It needs to go back and go away. We have the entire, there's the areas of all the individual parcels, but there's not, I don't see a note that there's overall final lot square footage and acreage. Owner's acceptance for responsibility for providing stormwater drainage facilities. This was previously a subdivision. That old subdivision needs to be referenced, and this is a replatting revision of the boundaries for that old subdivision.
Where Durango's was? Is this where Durango's was? Like, where is this actually located on
No, this is where the U-Haul is.
U-Haul?
Yeah, right.
That house that, that was the.
Huge car lot.
Yes, yeah. That's the, okay,
And the pin out behind it too.
okay. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
That was a while back.
And so they're working on getting those together.
Okay. Oh, so this is still the U-Haul, this is,
Right, this is the U-Haul
Yeah,
property,
right.
and then just
They were
adjacent to
talking
it, they're gonna put, that's right, that's the intent, that's not shown on here, because this is just a subdivision.
no, I remember them coming about wanting to expand it out and purchase it.
Right.
Did you say your engineer's on the phone or?
Yes.
On the phone? Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. This is Don Steele, Chairman. Just wanted to make sure, I'm not sure, were you able to hear Scott's comments, our engineer?
Yes, and we did receive the comments and we did make them, obviously not for this meeting. But we're just seeking conditional approval, knowing that these comments will be taken care of.
What of the comments, Scott, aren't just adjustments to the drawings?
Yeah, the highway occupancy one.
Well, there's a number of typos and stuff.
Okay.
Some additions, some notes.
You're still missing the cover letter to go to the planning commission, correct? Do you have that?
We have the cover letter. We don't have anything back from the county yet.
Okay.
We did get a copy of the cover letter.
Okay, so that's taken care of. Okay.
Do you, either of you, feel that there are issues here that need to be addressed, under another review by the planning commission? In other words, with regard to the in other words, she's asking for us to give a approval that's contingent on this thing. So there are things that you want us, the planning commission, to see once they finish, once they make these corrections.
Scott's been pretty good with past precedents as far as ensuring that everything's adhered to, so it will make.
I think
We'll have to give it another review.
time is the thing that he has time to do the review
Right.
as far as when they're presented.
Yeah, so if we heard back from Scott that he was good with the revision, then we can put it on the board of supervisors otherwise.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
I am too.
If you
Yeah,
want.
I'm also.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that
There's
you
nothing
and
shows
our planner.
Just don't want Scott up midnight the night before trying to
Yes.
look at the stuff.
Eric's got a little bit on it, but yeah, as long as he's comfortable with it.
Thanks.
Questions or substantive questions on the drawings? We did go over this in quite detail a couple of years ago.
Yes.
We did.
Well, we'll entertain a motion if so.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval, for consideration of preliminary and final minor subdivision application approval for the America Real Estate Consolidation Plan. The real estate property is located 960, 984, 990 Washington Road, parcel blah, 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 in a C2 zoning district with engineer's comments and acceptance of the material that has to be presented with Scott's approval before it gets to the supervisor.
Beat me to it.
All right, second by Paul, motion by Jay, second by Paula. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
The engineer's still on the phone, just get that done and get Scott as soon as possible. Otherwise, they won't let you present it.
Okay.
All over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I'm correct, they just need the transmittal letter, which we have. They don't actually have to have planning commission approval yet.
They're gonna have to have it.
They'll have to have it.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
I got a question.
What else?
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Oh, we heard anything on, mix up there with it? They're gonna come into this. Yeah.
So apparently this was approved originally as part of the old mill development. So Brandon this was in process when Brandon left. It was kind of placed in my lap, so.
Approved for what?
As part of the original plan for Old Mill.
Okay, but the building plan and all that stuff.
It's all the same as it was back whenever.
So it's all been approved for the building?
there
I was actually gonna ask that after I went past him, like, I don't remember the land development.
I don't remember that either, that's why I was asking.
That would go way back.
I've been here way back, Joe.
Yeah, way back.
I remember any of that.
I share in your confusion about that, because that started when the former manager was here and I questioned it. And he said that it was part of the land development for Old Mill, but I don't understand how the timing would have still been acceptable.
Well,
considering that was
yeah, because
set.
Old Mill, that place wasn't even, it was a concept, it wasn't even a concept back.
Supposedly they came back for like a revision at some point in the past couple of
Yeah.
years.
Is there documentation on that?
Double check. I don't know. It was approved before it was handed off to me. Once it was handed off to me, it was just building plans were needed to be reviewed.
They have a building permit.
Right. Yeah, they have a building permit in hand currently, but I mean, ultimately it would behoove the township to have that process and the traffic impact.
Where is that building going to go up there? Where, I mean, where, I can't remember now where they have that place.
originally, so they did come back for a revision supposedly at some point. I'll look up the data there, but that was supposed to be a Burlington Coat Factory originally. So like we had applications for Burlington signs and whatnot. They dropped off. It looks like maybe they built at Bridgeville rather than this location. And then there's still several sites next to where the Dick's is going now. It's supposed to essentially turn into a strip mall.
That was two parcels.
It was all part of Old Mill, but they divided it, and that is their own now, where Dick's is.
Yeah.
That's its own parcel.
They excavated that whole.
Right.
I kept wondering about that.
Yeah.
How are they doing that without coming in and see us? Interesting what kind of paper.
Yeah, land development approval doesn't last that long without starting construction.
Right.
I mean, that's interesting.
That's what, that's the time.
Yeah, I'm just kind of would like to see some documentation on that. That's not that we may be stuck, but I'd still like to see the documentation, how that came about. You're not be able to do anything. That's all I can.
The reason that it really came up is at the same time we were going through an issue with Meadows Landing coming up to the end of their timing on their land development. So at the time, that was it. We were working with Dennis on Meadows Landing. We were also working with Crooney from zoning, and we had talked about both of those items. I don't get how we could be, essentially prohibiting or terminating Meadows Landing agreement with supposedly Dick's Sporting Goods having been okay for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Wherever.
Yeah, I mean, without knowing the detail, I mean, if it's all included in the original land development plan and they built everything else and they did construct, they didn't build that part.
Right.
That's deeper than I've gone into things before.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, so I'll forward.
But I was curious as to why we hadn't seen it yet.
Sure.
And then when I
Yeah.
was past their own footings now, because I'm like, okay, they have a grading permit, whatever.
That's
But-
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, but then when I saw the footings this weekend, actually going, I'm like, no, they're building the building now. I was.
How do they do that?
I should have some emails from that time frame of asking why exactly it didn't need to come for land development, so. I'll take a look.
Emails from who?
What's that?
Emails from who?
I don't recall. It's either with
Something.
Rudy,
I mean.
I don't recall anything about that.
That original, there was I think I vaguely remember the master plan being redone at some point, but that was a long time.
Oh, yeah. Gee,
That was many years ago.
After pennies collapsed or all that kind of stuff.
Well, after that,
After that.
well, after that, but,
We just did for, Menards. I mean, I know that's another lot, but it's changing the road and everything over there.
right.
What's my next question about Menards? Anything new on them? or-
Yeah, I reached out to them
They changed their
2
mind.
weeks ago. They haven't changed their mind. They own the property, but they don't have a start date on starting to move dirt. There's a lot of earth moving that has to occur on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They're waiting for the election.
What's that?
They're waiting for the election. Probably.
The hope for interest rate.
Yeah.
Interest
When I
rates.
get $25,000.
There's a question, I think this came up a while back, but the water retention ponds. What's the guidelines on keeping those cleaned out?
Just in general, you talking?
Well, I'm wondering, and I'm thinking it's the one over here at Walmart that's all around it.
Right.
And I don't think it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, it's not.
But
So,
enforcing that is the other issue.
right. So that's part of the MS4 that we're working through right now. Historically, there's been such limited staff from what I gather that they had trouble with keeping up with that. There's also still some level of confusion between the DEP and the state and municipalities as far as what authority we have to enforce that and how exactly we can go about it. But we do inspect retention ponds. We have a representative from KLH that works with us on that, and we're still finding ponds that aren't in our GIS mapping to essentially show us where they are at. So we're working with Public Works. We do those inspections in-house as well as with assistance from their MS4 representative that works with us, but there's a lot of cleanup that has to occur in that, so.
Is the ultimate responsibility supposed to lie with the developer though, to continue that?
The landowner.
The
yeah.
landowner,
No,
that's.
some
Is that all
municipalities,
still owned by Mercedes Development?
yeah, some municipalities do accept responsibility of them. We've attempted to stay out of that.
Yeah, sure, I
Yeah.
don't think we should.
Right.
I mean, I agree with staying out of it. Yeah,
We're
I,
also gonna reach a point with some other stormwater stuff where we have to reduce sediments that we have to take on projects and spend a certain amount of money, again, for the DEP. And one of the options the township will have is to take over some of the ponds, but
could we
it's
then
just a-
bill
it's a
the owner
nightmare.
for it?
What's that?
Could we then bill the owner?
We have to take full responsibility for it at that point.
Which bills themselves.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
And all these
Some
ponds are
development
built under
companies,
the permits from the DEP and then conservation district goes up, but once they're done, they're not really.
Yeah, but they expect us to be on it like crazy with not that much guidance on it or ability to enforce if somebody's not actually maintaining it appropriately. So we have some folks that really do a nice job of maintaining them. And then we have some landowners, obviously, like that one, that really don't do much. And the site is a pretty good neighbor to us. Whenever we have an issue and we bring it to their attention, they have it handled quickly. So that one specifically might be a matter of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just.
Yeah. So we
Let them know it's a
definitely
neighbor.
meet next week about MS4 and trying to get everything kind of under control.
Because they're not a problem until they're a problem, and
Yeah,
then when they are, it's a catastrophic problem.
I have a question that's funny about, of my neighborhood in East Point. Who owns those, the retention ponds?
The ones downstream,
Now, who owns, in other words, just if you go in East Point.
Right.
And you go around the right hand side, Samuel's house and Amy's house next to it, there's a retention pond at the back of that. Is that on their property?
yeah,
And so they own, and it's on both pieces of property.
right, because you guys don't have an HOA, correct? There's no HOA or land
No.
use agreement there.
No, all that happened was that there were covenants
Right,
when we purchased the property.
right. Yeah, that's actually something we're dealing with, the issue with water downstream from that off of Lakeview. So there's water, reportedly coming from East Point and East Bow that's causing flooding down off of houses off of Lakeview. And if any of you remember, there was a park at some point on Lakeview that the township owns 30, 40 years ago. It's actually flooded into that. And there's a private owner up off of East Point that actually owns all the way down there. So we're trying to get to the bottom of all that right now. It's very difficult because most of they're civil issues that we're trying not to expend significant township funds on. But at the same time, we have to try to at least get to the bottom of it.
Well, like you said, Joe, this can be tough. You talk about covenants, then it's like, what, if the covenants are the same in everybody's deed, whatever those covenants might bind you to some responsibility somewhere, even though there's not an HOA, but
Yeah.
I don't know, you have to.
Yeah,
I have for you guys to do a title search to see what that means.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
I mean,
good thing it's not actually on your property.
it's not, no, I'm on the up.
Always stay on the.
All I have to worry about is, the Tarbuck's house sliding down.
Significant concern.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, I think everybody met Kristen. We are very, very excited for her to
Thank you very
be
much.
here and get started.
It's great, good job.
Kristen joins us from several years at Peters Township and Dormont prior to that.
Yeah, but my other question is, are there things pending, for next month that you're looking at that you can give us a heads up?
Something just got delivered yesterday, which is, I don't remember that name, it's next to Panda Express. It's some type of a very small drive-through coffee shop. It's something brew. I don't know.
Another tough one.
Yeah, which is better than the alternative. So Verizon, which is going into where Zoop was, wanted to build a structure between Chipotle and Panda Express. And there's not sufficient room there to try to make it happen. And, they have to meet turning radius reports for fire apparatus. There's all types of things. So thankfully they decided to just take over where it was, and this place should be a lot easier. I don't think there's any indoor seating or anything. It's all drive-through. So that's the only thing off the top of my head that I can recall. I know Chris has been- Okay. It's been extremely busy. We have, I mean, as always, we have a lot of phone calls about people wanting to come here in some way, shape, or form. But it takes a while normally for that to come to fruition. So that's the only one where we have something like tangible that we know that it might be coming. The other one that you'll probably see something about sooner than later is Snuffy Developments off of Lakeview is looking to come back. So after that was a year and a half ago.
They come back?
Maybe
Yeah.
more.
They took a lot of notes from the results of what the residents had asked for and whatnot. They reduced the amount of building on that area by about 100 homes, reduced it to R1 standards, and they want to do essentially like an open house. Is their next step to allow people from the area to come in and talk with them before they actually submit an official request. They're going to have to go to something first anyway, though, I believe, because they have to end up either getting a text amendment or they have to get that property rezoned.
That has to come here.
Oh, yeah.
That comes here. But you're right, yeah, because it's industrial, right?
So I think our most recent discussion, we're kind of essentially going to offer them, they can rent the meeting room if they'd like, and plan this open house on their own accord. And all the planning commission, the board of supervisors will be notified about it, but they're trying to do that prior to submitting their application.
We can do a pre-app meeting like they did before. I mean, that might be the way to do it. Or, because if they're gonna have their own thing, we can't all go to that. Because it's a quorum.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I think we were talking before about the big thing happening in Washington, Greene counties in western Pennsylvania is solar farms. And right now I'm dealing with solar farms up in Jefferson Township and Hanover Township and throughout the Washington, Greene, and Fayette County. So I sent over an example of what we're doing someplace else about solar farms because it's a big topic. I mean, I was at Jefferson Township on Tuesday, probably had 100 some people up there that are upset about solar farms, maybe 5 for them. So I sent something over to the township, I believe, a couple weeks ago, I think. And I think we should start looking at something to be proactive rather than reactive, because what happened up in Jefferson Township is some of the planning commission members knew about this. It's like an 800 to 1,000 acres of solar farm.
That much?
It's big. It's a start, I guess they leased the Starvaggi properties up there and some other properties. And the people are just all in an uproar. I mean, there's things that they worry about, electromagnetic waves, they worry about the chemicals, lithium batteries, and everything else. So I sent some over to the township, and I talked to the township manager about maybe trying to start looking at something to amend our current zoning ordinance to possibly address where you would limit the solar farms, because, you know, suppose it's green energy, Biden and all these people say it's a great thing to have, but the people that live next to it don't want it. I mean, so it's a big issue. It's a hot topic. So I guess Kristen will probably get you something, and maybe we should start thinking about doing that.
Yeah, because there is a lot of property out of the
And they-
southern end of the township that is.
Yeah, that might fit. Smith had a big thing.
That's
Smith Township.
Jefferson Township. And the thing about it is, what I do know is that they like to build next to, I guess, those high transmission lines.
Yeah.
The reason why I talked to some people, I've read so much about solar farms and what's going on. I read too much about it. But they'd like to build close to those high electric transmission lines, because if they're not that close, it becomes more of an expense to them.
Right.
So probably in the next month or so, you'll start seeing something coming from the township, some drafts I've done elsewhere. And basically, I think, you figure out where you try to limit it. Now, farmers don't like it, except they like it if they're leasing the property.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar, Dennis, with the solar farms. What all is on this? So like if they, about how much property, it sounds like it takes up a lot of acreage.
Takes up a lot of acreage, it
And
talks,
what else goes on it, yeah, what's.
it's
how's it developed?
it's basically like, and again, understand I can understand why would you want to come to Western Pennsylvania to have a solar farm?
Really?
I'm serious. I mean, how many days of sunlight do you have? And I guess if like today and all that, but the panels, I believe they rotate to follow the sun. So, I mean, there's a lot, it's fascinating what they do, but it's something you start reading about and it's just fascinating and then there's the question of the chemicals and what happens if this tornado comes through, like we had this tornadoes, in Union Township a couple number of months ago.
Yep.
The question is what would happen and the question of the big thing is decommissioning. The question is, I grew up in a coal mine town called Vesterburg. The slate dumps are the vestiges of the coal mines. And then they just, after the coal mines shut down, they're still there, the slate dumps.
And so are all the old gas wells.
And so are all the old gas wells. So what I try to worry about is the people concerning what happens, because I think these things go for 20, 25, 30 years. And basically, what happens, well, you might be here, Tom, you're younger than us.
20 years, I don't think so.
But you have to look down the road. The question is, how do you protect the community with these things decommissioned? There's a House bill that's currently out there with the state. I can't remember. It's 1302 or something, 1202, that talks about decommissioning these solar farms down the road. And they take a situation where they use a graded approach, like you have to put a bond like 20% as it gets older, the bond gets higher and higher. But I take the position, I'd rather have 110% bond from day one. I'm sorry, I'd rather be covered rather than just do it by a graded approach. But
Well, because it's not something the state's really involved in yet, right?
not yet, but there is, like I said, there's a House bill talking about the decommission, but there's not much out there in terms of solar farms for the state. And the funny part about it is the feds and the state are giving this money to all these people to put solar farms in.
Is that just all those solar panels are just lining up all over those acres?
Yes.
Acres.
Yeah,
Yes,
and so
Now the chemicals you're talking about, like this is supposed to be green energy. So
Well,
where- what's the chemicals?
there are chemicals in the panels.
right.
I don't even.
I think they have what's called cadmium or something's in the panels or something like that.
Mhm.
And that's not a good chemical to be dealing with.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
oh my
I mean,
goodness.
I mean, we travel to, down by Moorhead City, in North Carolina, and along one of the 2-lane roads, North Carolina 58, which goes from Kinston down to Moorhead, in that area, there are huge.
I heard
solar
about that.
farms, Huge solar farms.
They say you drive for miles and miles, it's lining the highway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, all that being said, we're ready to adjourn.
Well, just so you know, Pittsburgh averages 59 clear days per year.
Unless you don't need a clear day.
Cloudy days per year.
You don't need a clear day, I guess.
But why would they come here? I just don't understand. But there's in Fayette County, there's a big fuss about in Fayette County right now. There's a fuss up in Unity Township in Allegheny. It's a big thing.
Money in it.
Let me invest.
All right, so we're adjourned.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, second. All right. We're adjourned.